Okay, let's get started. So in this session we will try to see how to build, how to use Eclipse to create Java based web applications and how to add say a servlet, and also once we have the basics of building creating a web project, then running it and writing a servlet, then we will see one of a sample application that we are going to use refer for the next sessions. So this is the Eclipse screen, and what we will do is we will start with file, new, other, and I'll see here web, dynamic web project. In case if you do not see this, okay, if your window, first time it may look like this. So you scroll down, go to web, use dynamic web project. If you are not seeing this web option, that actually means that your Eclipse version is your Eclipse is not Java EE ready. Means you might have downloaded, see here, Eclipse Java EE IDE for web developers. You must be downloading this, and you could see that there are so many other, there are so many of these things here. What are the things that are there here, Eclipse? You have, I installed, the JBoss tools for some other purpose. There is SVN. Everyone should be having it. Myelin is not required for now. Egit is not required, but I need that. Then JBoss, Eclipse. There are additional plugins available with the Eclipse installation that I have. But such as for you, the name should be here. The name should be Java Enterprise Edition. If not, you need to download additional plugins. Fine. Assuming that you have the Eclipse, that is the required version for us, Java Enterprise Edition Eclipse. Okay. So file, new, we go to web, select the dynamic web project, and here what happens is that you need to give a project name. Okay, you need to give a project name. Then let's give test web. I'm not going to use this project such as, but let me give this as a test web. And you please monitor this particular thing. You have target runtime. Target runtime is nothing but the Apache or whatever web server related information. You can click new and we'll see, initially if you are doing it first time, this drop down will be empty. The drop down will be none will be selected, and you will be forced to select new runtime. Now here you could see that under Apache you could see various Tomcat instances, various Tomcat versions such as. So I'm going to use Tomcat version 6, but let's look at what other options we have. This is something basic. Then IBM means the WebSphere is IBM has WebSphere as their application server. JBoss is another server that we have, and now JBoss is owned by Red Hat. So various versions of JBoss. JBoss commercial, and maybe the first one could be commercial one, and because JBoss community is here. Similarly, you have Oracle. I never use this OC4J. Okay, this is another container, web container. Then object web, some other server, Jonas. So what the various servers are here, or if you want another adapters, you could see that download additional server adapters, but for us it is not really required. What we have is, I just wanted to explain that we have these options, and the one we will be using is Apache Tomcat version 6.0. Now what we need to do is, once you select the 6.0 version, click next. Then here you need to give the location of the downloaded Tomcat setup in your computer. So I extracted it into dhari Apache Tomcat -6.0.35. So I give the version name, the particular path. So because I already have it, that is the reason I'm not going to continue, but Otherwise, you need to give the path and click finish. I'll click cancel because it exists for me already, right? So then there is a dynamic web module version. Which version of what type of which version of web application you want to build. So basically this is a servlet version that you are going to use. So um, Tomcat 6.0 supports till 2.5. Okay, if you take Tomcat 7.0, you will have Servlet 3.0. So the drop-down will even have 3.0. Servlet 3.0 comes up, the particular web applications with that particular 3.0 version comes up with additional things are like, where developer could be little lazy. It doesn't need to configure too much of information, and it will be taken care by annotations. So it looks easy, but to understand a web application and its concept thoroughly in Java, the way I prefer is that let us go with Tomcat 6.0 and we use servlet module 2.5 so that we will have all the configurations in place. Now you click finish. So once you do this, so you have, you see here the icon here on top of, the test web. You see that there is a round globe, there is a Java web application. It actually means that it is a web application. Look at the regular other training project that we have. It is plain J word is there, J character is there. That actually means that it is a Java project and not a web project. So this is the structure that you will have your web application project in Eclipse. Okay, such as the I really like, if you see the actual content of web application, it will be like, this is the folder web inf. The folder is important, web inf is important. Web inf will have lib folder. Then what I'll do is I'll explain that in the Windows Explorer, but for now let's see how do we build a basic application. Now suppose if I want to build a simple page, what I will do is I'll say, let me say HTML page. Let's see. Okay, it says okay. I think this is only sample. I could edit here. So I just added one HTML file. Just edited HTML this thing and the title. Perfect. A simple content. So we will see the HTML details later, but this is a basic thing that any to build any website you must be having some HTML idea or lot of HTML and CSS, JavaScript kind of stuff is required to build the front end along with a lot of creativity, because web applications, it is not about technical implementation, but you need to know the user taste. So users, how usability of the website is very, very important. Look at this. Now our first website is up and running, and it is simple, not too difficult. Once you have your Eclipse in place, so you could see that in the console you could see that I just cleared the logs, but otherwise server Eclipse actually does the startup. When I say run, let me stop this. I'll show you that. I select this file, run on server, and it asks me, look at this. It asks for choose an existing server, manually define a new server. When you select the manually define a new server, it will again pop up, you need to complete the runtime environment information. But otherwise, because I already have configured the Tomcat, so I choose that. You see here, when I say that Tomcat is being started, see here? So the Tomcat console is pretty much, you could see that in the Eclipse itself, and your web page comes up, right? So that's a beautiful thing. You don't need to really strain too much by running Tomcat manually using command prompt, but we still need to uh, know that we could actually do that particular thing. Let us see how do we add a servlet, and we'll see basically, like, the web applications. If we have to see the web applications, there are two different things. One is HTML files are static content. There will not be any dynamic stuff. Usually what happens is when you log into email application or maybe any social networking site, you could see that all your information is populated, and if your friends logs in from other computer, he will see brand new, everything specific to him and not your content. So that actually means that the applications are custom, they are dynamic. They actually, like, take the user input for logging in, login, and then once successful login, then they show you all the information, I mean, from database or some other, some kind of data storage, and but mostly it is RDBMS, relational database management systems only, and they actually, like, query database and show it. So irrespective of the technology that we are going to use for the building web applications, the kind of logic that you are going to have is almost same. So first thing is you will have some front end user interface, GUI, and then you have some server side technology. It is not the static content, right? So that is the reason you need to have some server side technology to honor the user request and show him dynamic data. So it could be any technology. It could be PHP, it could be .NET, it could be Java. Now, being that we are into Java world and we are learning Java, so we are looking at how do we create Java based web application. Now, also another thing is that the how do we really process a user request. We saw that this is a simple HTML page, but how do I really process web based, how do I really process a new, a user request. So for that purpose, what we need to create is servlet. You could see that servlet is listed here directly, or you could click other, go to the web, where this is the same place where we created dynamic web project. Remember, the project that we created is dynamic web project and not something else. So let me create a servlet. I'm just making this as a hello servlet. Okay, and now see here, there is some mapping, URL mapping means, after if you see this particular thing here, localhost colon 8081 slash test web slash index.html. For HTMLs, the HTML part is kind of static, but now for servlets, what you could do is that you could give some user friendly name. Instead of hello servlet, I could make it as just hello. Okay, this is a URL mapping. The till the test web, it is common. After that, instead of hello servlet, what I am saying is I am saying hello. Let's see this. And now if you see, when you click new, you will see that we have certain checkboxes here, some options. Constructors from superclass, inherited abstract methods, and important thing is that do get and do post methods. Do get and do post methods. I'll explain about these methods. So click finish. Now this is the code that gets automatically generated. So I want to write something specific to the user. I want to write some message to the user. How do I do? By default, when a user hits a URL, when a user hits the URL, when I type this URL and then press enter, the page that the actually HTTP, the protocol that we are following is HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol. HTTP Transfer Protocol actually, like, it says that, there are multiple different methods. Instance, when a request is sent from the browser, in Eclipse, whatever you see is actually an Internet Explorer IDE. Okay, so basically there's a browser. Now, the browser and the server, the way they communicate, how they should be communicating is defined by HTTP protocol. HTTP protocol says that there are certain methods that you must be asking, in the sense, there is a method called get, there is a method called post. I'll explain and show you those things, but get and post, couple of methods, and those methods are, mostly we'll be using only one of them. And first time when I type something, say google.com, when I type something like google.com, when I type google.com, what really happens is, I get a page, and here if I could see, you see the view source. Okay, view source. Okay, this is a bit messy thing, I can't say this. Let's skip that particular part. But when I type any URL first, without when this is actually called get method. And also other thing is, say when I type some text, in the Google search, what you could see that your URL is changing. Your URL is changing. So where actually you have lot of stuff, what I would rather say is, I'll just reduce this, minimize it, and just let us look at this. Okay, when I am typing that, search, there is something like, URL is getting appended with certain additional things. This is called query string. So what I have is, in case of Google, I have something called Q equal to Java web application. Okay, I mean, you see the plus symbols, that's because, it cannot, HTTP does not support spaces in the URL when you are typing. So it needs to be, to address that particular thing, there's some special character that this guy is introducing. There is something called base 64. We can discuss that little later. There is some base 64 character set where you have, the basic characters plus numbers and special characters plus, I think, there are a couple of other characters. Okay, so now basically, like, when you type something, when your query string gets appended to the URL, that method you can assume that as a get method. Either you first time you type it, or you see a query string in the URL, then that actually means that this is a HTTP get method. Okay, now when you submit a form, that will be, in the sense, you have a login form, username, password, or you have a registration form, you submit. That's actually usually the way we implement that is with a post method. We'll see those things as well later, or maybe in the next class. Now, right now, what we'll see is that we will see how do we dump, say hello information, hello message dynamically from servlet. I say print writer, the print writer equal to, you see this, response dot get writer. Okay, and this print writer is from IO streams, and we might have discussed this during our streams related discussion. Yes, we did discuss. So writer dot, right, you have, I'll say servlet programming. See here, now I'm writing this response and the using servlet, not a plain HTML. Here, instead of this single message, what I could do is I could talk to database, fetch the data, display that in the, give it to the browser. And how this goes is that, whatever goes, this is what, you need to explicitly generate the HTML syntax here. Within the string, I need to, sorry, okay. If I need to write something else, h2, I'm just putting up another line just to explain that, how do we type. This is how you type. If I need to type something dynamically, okay, say suppose now string name equal to, say suppose Hari. Now I want to display this particular message. Okay, what I could do is that, do like this. Okay, now let's see how to run this. You can right click this and run on server. There are multiple ways you can run. Here itself you can do it, or you go here where the class file is generated. You right click here, you say run on server, or you could see, for now I think these two steps are important. Once you're done with, there is a shortcut on top of it. Let's see. Can you restarting without? Okay, it looks like we need to restart the server. Okay. See here. So hello to our new servlet programming, and Hari, though I appended, it came in the second line because this text was into H1. So this is how we actually do a web-based project. And now to cut short some of the time, what we need to do is that we need to check out a project. I'm going to show you that. I'll use one of my earlier project. To continue in some other classes. So what you do is, assuming that you have SPN plugin installed already, so show view. If you do not see this particular thing, SPN repositories here, what you can do is show view and SPN repositories. You click that and this window gets opened. Now here what you need to do is new, yes, finish. Let's add the repository here. Let's add the repository here in the Eclipse, and then let's check out the project and see how we can build the work. See here, this is the one that is added now. Let me check out in the SPN as a project. Check out. This is the sample application that has some working code, in the sense there is a simple demo available. DB connectivity, HTML, CSS styles, JavaScript, jQuery. So there are multiple things that are integrated there. So it takes a couple of minutes. It says the folder office web exists in the local system and will be deleted. You will not get this message because I'm doing this a second time, and just to explain, show you how it looks like. I said checkout and it's checking out. I'm not doing much, what I did is I added this path, SVN path, the same path that is right here. So Hari Java training Google code Hari training googlecode.com/svn/trunk/office web. Okay, so that's the SVN path, and you get it from office web, sorry, the SVN. Now this is a folder, it gets checked out as a web project. Let me take you to, yeah. So then what happens is that, in this folder, In which folder I'm talking about? In this path, actually, if you clearly note this up. Yeah, in this folder, you could see that I actually like added the database part as well, MySQL workbench project. So you click this particular thing, Office Web, and this is what gets opened. So a simple database that what I have is employee, department, and designation. So employee has username, password, first name, last name, birth date, email ID, manager ID, designation, department ID. If you look at the last two columns, department ID actually maps to ID of the department table. Now, foreign key mapping. Department has ID and name, simple ID and name, a different table. Similarly, designation is a ID and title. What I have is designation ID, it maps to department table. Now, if you see the foreign keys, FK designation ID, there are three foreign keys actually. One is designation ID maps to, you could clearly see designation of, the reference table is designation and the column is ID and the local column is designation ID. Similarly, department ID. If you see department ID, this reference column is department and the local column is department ID and reference column is ID in the department table. Now, there is one more foreign key. This is interesting. You see this. What I have is, and a manager is also an employee, right? So, all levels of employees will be stored in the single table. So, one employee could be manager for someone else. So, within the same table, say suppose Hari is a manager and his employee ID is 10. Now they say suppose Venki is a new joining and his employee ID is 20. So for Venki, ID will be 20 and when it comes to manager ID column, it will be 10 because Hari manages him. So within the same table you have foreign key. This is also possible. So this is the simplest scenario, a simple schema that we can have, and what you do is you try to look at this once and then you do a forward engineering so that you don't need to have the strain of regenerating the scripts. So click next, next, next and finish and click next, execute. Now your database part of the application is ready. Now let's go to this application. So I added this DB folder and you can discard this particular GymDB for now. When that's actually not required. That's one the candidate has added. So if you clearly see that the web application wise, what are the things that I have? I have here. I'll explain this code later. I mean, we will be doing this going forward, but within the, now I have something called JDBC connection manager. Please see this. And here I am giving the connection string, and then username and password. So you need to change this particular thing so that it works for you. For using this Office web application, you must be doing this. Okay. So this is a simple application. And what we do is, now let's run this. Let's run login.html. Let's run login.html. Now the application, in order to reboot, it needs to reboot. Now test1, Hari is the default username that I have and test1 is the password. Now once we log in, we see that some updates here. Your login name is this, your password is this, but never an application really shows up a password. But here the idea is that say if I was explaining the get and post methods, Now if you see clearly in HTML, we will see HTML, more of HTML, but there is something called form here. See here, an element called form. Form name equal to login form, method equal to post. Here, this is where you make the difference. So when I make the method equal to post, I cannot see anything in the query string. Let me see, let me make this as get. And let's try to run this. Okay. So when I run, when I make this as a get method and try to submit, you see here the question here, the URL gets changed. Your data gets appended to the data gets appended. Your data gets appended to the URL. Data gets appended to the URL. Now, so that's actually like, most of the cases data will be sensitive, and when you are submitting something, I mean, I don't want to show up my password in the URL. So what we will do, use general practice is that we actually use that as a post method. But remember, get is the default method. Get is the default method. So what you do is you check out the code, set up this project, try to run this. Username is Hari and password is test1. Default username password. And the change you need to do to run this application is open JDBC. Here in the office, you have SRC, SRC Office Web DAO JDBC Connection Manager. Just change the password that suits to your local database installation. So this is how you could set up a existing project that is available from SVN location. You could set, this is, I mean, you can set up any type of project, but this is in particular is a Java web application. So let us see how a regular Java web application looks like. If you see Office Web, this is how it looks like, in the Explorer portion. So this is the web application folder, final folder that gets into the server. But the interesting thing is that the format that Eclipse shows up, Eclipse has, SRC folder, and some of them I added. When you add lib folder, you will not be there. Database also will not be there as part of your Eclipse project. I added it just to place the DB file, DB model file. So what generally typically the application, Java based web application looks like is that your JSPs are, you see here, show cookies and session is JSP, first page is .jsp, home.jsp, and these files, they look, and gym.css, there is a CSS file as well. So these files, they actually like, they appear into the root folder of the application, or you could create a folder and put your file. When you create a folder and put a file, then in the URL the way you access also changes. If I have a folder, and now we are here actually. Okay, so home, office web. If I have a folder, suppose let me say test, and maybe copy, oops. So I copied the login.html into a folder called test. Now how do I access that? Office web test/login.html. Oops. Okay, application need to, okay, I added the file manually, so that is the reason I need to refresh, but this works actually. This is how it will be working. Okay. But because I'm actually doing with Eclipse and then I'm trying to manually add it, it will not work, but otherwise, it works like that. Now, if you see that JSP is everything you can put into folders. Now, where is my Java code? Your Java code goes into web.inf. I mean, actually, like Java code gets compiled and it goes into this, the class files will go into web.ins folder. See here, all dart class files are there. Eclipse actually generates the dart class files and puts them into web.inf folder. Web.inf is the heart of your application. Okay, So what are the things that you will have in the web.inf? What you have is some file called web.xml, and this particular thing has um, you see here web.xml. What are the things that I have? You will have some certain mappings. Let's look at some servlet mapping. First servlet, you declare servlet. Let's look at this particular segment. Okay. So what I have is first servlet. You declare a servlet. The servlet class name here hello world servlet. Okay, and the servlet name, you are giving a name for the servlet. And remember, this is not the one that is going to be used in the URL. So just that, again, a technical name kind of thing. Instead of, you could give any name such as. So here it is hello world servlet. So init parameters, you want to initialize the servlet with some parameter, then you can use this. Otherwise, it is not required. For now, discard this. So what you have is you are configuring a servlet element. So the servlet, this is the servlet box. This is the servlet. So here you can discard the init parameter for now. Now, how do I map to which URL? Hello world servlet is the servlet name. But now, how do I map this into a particular path? So this is how I will be doing it. Servlet mapping. I say that servlet mapping and say URL pattern is /hello. Office web /hello. If someone types that, then which servlet will be served? This servlet will be served. Hello world servlet will be served. What is hello world servlet? This is a servlet name. And what is the actual Java class? The actual Java class is this. Servlet class is this. So you will have multiple of these mappings in your web.xml. Web.xml. If you go with servlet 3.0, this particular web.xml is optional, and it's optional. So you can build a web application without even this file. But as a Java developer, you must be learning about how your web configuration happens. Now let's look at the top element, welcome file list. Welcome file list is about when you don't type any page on the domain. When I just type google.com, a page gets served. I am not typing anything like index.html or index.jsp. So similarly, in your application, if you want to set up welcome files, you can actually put them here. Actually say if index.html is there, that file will be served. If it is not there, index.html will be served. Otherwise, index.jsp will be served in the hierarchy. Okay. So if you look at this particular file, you have some other servlets as well. But don't worry about that. But you just know that okay, these things are available. These things are possible. Okay. So now web.xml is an important thing, and let's look at the lib folder. So whatever are the jar files required to be in the class path to run your web application, we always place them into web.inf lib folder. In this case, we are just using MySQL connector. So that's the reason that jar is in the path. When you check out your code, you have everything in place. Okay. Now classes. So in Eclipse, it shows src folder separately in the project. So this code, all this code gets compiled. Hello world servlet, command diabo, everything gets compiled and goes and sits in classes folder of the final product. Okay. See, the structure that Eclipse has is only for the developer, not for the Java standard specification. So as per the Java standard, your application code, all the code should be lying in the Java code, should be going there. Either Java code can either go as a jar into lib folder. If you bundle everything as a Java archive and put it in the lib folder. Otherwise, you want to put them separately, then they should go into classes folder. Where your package structure and finally the classes. This is the structure. Okay. And otherwise, if you have any CSS files, images, videos, resources, everything, if you want to put this in a web application, then this is a place to put. Your root folder is the place where you put these applications, right? And everything, all the web applications of, a Tomcat, they actually, this, if you look at, Tomcat deployment folder, bin, conf, lib, logs, temp, web apps, work, say web apps is a folder where you will be having your application in place. Now, if you look at Stars2 example, okay, this guy has no HTML. If you look at this, say in this application, what you have is images are placed into the root folder itself. Okay, Tomcat host manager only. Okay, so this is the place where you will be putting, the root folder of your application, say Office Web. Here in this folder, you can put images, CSS, HTML, everything together. Everything, you can structure them in folder hierarchy as well, and then, for your ease of use and ease of development. So this is how it looks like, the Tomcat based job. And I mean, actually, like, this is the, when you look at the structure of the web application, that is common. This is not specific to any, I mean, as long as you are building a web application in Java, it is same. Whether what type of server you use, it doesn't really matter. The final output should be in this format. So let me delete. It's taking so much time. Okay, so this is the path. This is the one that I want to introduce to about, the introduction to the web applications.